Coming up tonight, orange barrels continue to pop up around Toledo. How first responders tackle these obstacles when responding to emergencies. And it's been 1 year since the deadly Hamas terrorist attack that killed more than 1,000 people and took hundreds hostage. What one Northwest Ohio school did to honor those who lost their lives.
And we're tracking the latest on Category 5 Hurricane Milton. Plus, your local forecast remains cooler and sunny. I'll have your 10-day outlook coming up in just a bit. Kaylee.
Well, welcome into WTOL 11 News on Plus on this Monday night. I'm Kaylee Marin-Ted. We'll get to those top stories here in just a second. A jury has convicted Jonathan Baker on all charges stemming from an abduction and deadly crash.
Just went off the road into the side of a house.
Baker abducted a 7-month-old child from North Baltimore last June, then led police on a chase that ended when he crashed into a home in Tiffin. The jury found Baker guilty of kidnapping, murder, and firearm charges. Police found the infant shot twice after the crash. Baker is due back in court for sentencing later this month. The orange construction barrels in Toledo can sometimes have you seeing red, but Toledo Fire and Rescue leaders say they have a few different measures in place to make sure construction doesn't drastically impact response times. Officials say a satellite response system is used to find nearby response crews and provide the most efficient route to first responders. Toledo fire officials say it's important for drivers to be aware if an emergency vehicle is trying to get through.
Just make room for that emergency vehicle and please pull to the right. Give the fire apparatus the right of way. Think about the emergency that they're going to, that they're responding to somebody else's loved one. And even though it may be frustrating at times, think about the people in that emergency that need help.
Officials say the best thing you can do to help out is to pull as far right on the road as possible. Listen to this. Troopers stopped a driver in Wood County who was going a little too fast. Here's a shot of the radar, 136 miles per hour. Yeah, you're reading that right. That's nearly twice the speed limit. The Ohio State Highway Patrol says this happened on I-75 where the posted limit is 70. That's 66 miles over the speed limit. Data from the State Patrol shows there have been 169,000 people speed-related crashes on Ohio roads over the last 5 years. The closer to election season, the more yard signs you'll see about different issues in the area. Today, the community gathered to talk about 3 of those issues in Lucas County. Issue 19 would provide funding to maintain and improve buildings and facilities for TPS schools. Issue 29 would continue services for seniors on the Area Office on Aging. And Issue 30 would provide services through Lucas County Children's Services.
This is an issue that affects all individuals of our community, whether they recognize it or not.
I think at the end of the day, TPS proud. When Scott Park fulfills itself, I think everybody will continue to be TPS proud.
It's issue 30. We're at the bottom of the ballot, but please don't leave children at the bottom. Put them at the top of your heart.
To find out more about these issues and other things you are planning to vote on in your county, you can visit the WTOL 11 online voter guide. Today is the last day in Ohio to register to vote. You must have your registration updated to vote in the election. Early in-person voting starts tomorrow in the Buckeye State. Well, some people have argued the federal government isn't doing enough to help survivors in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Our National Verified team looks into the claims about FEMA aid for those impacted by the storm.
In the wake of Hurricane Helene, more than 200 people are dead and thousands of homes have been destroyed. Some people on social media have argued that the federal government isn't doing enough to help the survivors. Many claim FEMA is only offering $750 to Hurricane Helene victims. Others say that money is a loan that has to be paid back. Using these sources, here's what we can verify about relief aid for Hurricane Helene victims. On October 2nd, during a trip to Georgia to survey storm damage, Vice President Kamala Harris announced that the federal government had approved the governor's request for 100% reimbursement of local costs. As part of that relief, she said FEMA is providing
$750 for folks who need immediate needs being met, such as food, baby formula, and the like, and you can apply now.
But that's not the only assistance available. The $750 payment is for immediate assistance. FEMA also provides displacement assistance, which pays for a victim's hotel or motel stay while they work on their long-term housing plan, repair and replacement assistance, rental assistance, and personal property assistance, among other things. As for claims the $750 from FEMA is a loan, that's not true either. Jacqueline Rothenberger, Public Affairs Director for FEMA, posted to X that the $750 serious needs assistance is not a loan. We do not ask for this money back, Rothenberg said. People can apply for disaster relief through disasterassistance.gov, the FEMA app, at a disaster recovery center location, or by calling the FEMA helpline. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till.
Well, people on the Gulf Coast of Florida are bracing for impact as Hurricane Milton expects to make landfall late Wednesday into Thursday morning. Airports across the state will cease commercial flights on Tuesday and Wednesday in order to prepare for the storm. And you'll notice that Chief Meteorologist Chris Vickers here with WTOL 11 isn't with us tonight. That's because he's traveled down to our sister station WTSP in Tampa, Florida this week. He's helping out with the station as they have wall-to-wall coverage to help keep people informed. Let's check in with meteorologist John Birchfield as he helps us break down today's Behind the Hashtag on Hurricane Milton as people in Florida prepare for this to make landfall. John?
Yeah, Kaylee, this hurricane has rapidly intensified in the last 24 hours, and the latest data continues to show Cat 5 status with wind speeds that are sustained at 180 miles an hour, and some of those gusts have been reported at over 200 miles per hour. And Chris down in Tampa making sure folks are heeding those evacuation orders and staying safe as the storm approaches. That Category 5 storm has a very distinct eye. That circular appearance on satellite shows you a well-defined eye, and that is indicative of a powerful hurricane. It is likely to maintain Cat 5 status through tomorrow. However, there is going to be somewhat of a weakening trend as we head towards landfall that is likely to occur early Thursday morning. Latest data shows a Category 3 landfall near Tampa, Florida. This would occur overnight into Thursday morning with 125-mile-per-hour wind speeds expected. Hour-by-hour forecast barely glimpsing to the north of the Yucatan Peninsula. That landfall likely to occur early Thursday morning, and one of the biggest impacts going to be this storm surge with this one. We're also going to see some heavy flooding rainfall in some of those outer rain bands surrounding the eye wall of the hurricane. Wind speeds remain very strong as a major hurricane status, and those bright red colors around the eye, that shows you where the strongest winds are going to occur. Landfall expected with storm surge that will range from 10 to 12 feet, and some of the latest data does show the potential for the storm surge to get close to 15 feet. That is going to pose significant impacts for West Florida. Even if you don't live there, I'm sure you have friends or family or some sort of connection to Tampa or West Florida. We'll continue to have the latest and also your local weather forecast coming up in just a bit. Kaylee?
Well, if you want to see more breakdowns of viral trends and 60-second stories, check out our WTOL 11 social media pages on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Israel and the world marked 1 year since the terrorist attack by Hamas that killed 1,200 people that day, with more than 250 hostages that were also taken, and nearly 100 of them are believed to still be in captivity. Israel's prime minister visited the memorial in Jerusalem today. At the White House, a rabbi led a prayer before President Joe Biden lit a candle for the victims and their families. One woman whose cousin is still being held in Gaza spoke today about the conflict.
I think the leaders of the world need to work together to get a deal. Sadly, we do have to make a deal with Hamas because this is the only way to get them back alive.
Both former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are attending events today commemorating the attacks. Students at St. John's Jesuit held a day of peace today to remember those victims. The school presented Christian, Jewish, and Islamic prayers, then lit candles to honor the lives lost in the last year. They also clipped peace pins on different countries on the map. The school says this was the students' idea.
Students that brought this to our attention have a deep, deep faith. They have a deep, deep faith in Islam, a deep, deep faith in Judaism, and they're the ones that brought it to us. And so their voice about the concerns is mostly more about how they want to represent their relationship with God and the people who are hurting.
School leaders say the conflict of the Middle East is the primary focus, but the school encouraged students to keep their ongoing conflicts in the world in mind. The U.S. Supreme Court is back in session for its new term with some high-profile cases on the docket. Today, justices turned down an appeal from the Biden administration regarding abortion care in Texas hospitals. The nation's highest court will hear arguments Tuesday in the case about whether the federal government can regulate untraceable firearms known as ghost guns.
It's not a Second Amendment case. It's not a constitutional case. It's a case that deals with the power of the ATF, a federal agency, to issue a regulation that says we're going to treat ghost guns, those guns where you can get as an online kit, there's no serial number, there are no background checks. The ATF, a federal agency, tried to say, we want to treat ghost guns the same as all other firearms under federal law, meaning you would need a serial number, you would need background checks.
Later this year, the court is set to take up medical transition treatment for transgender kids and teens. The High Court could also be called to resolve any disputes stemming from the outcome of the presidential election. Well, 2 years after a hung jury case, the Flint water crisis case brought on by 7 kids is headed to trial. The attorneys plan to return to federal court this week and argue that a consultant's professional negligence made the man-made emergency worse. Jury selection is set to start tomorrow. The lawsuit claims companies were negligent during consulting work for the city of Flint in February of 2015. The lawsuit claims the city's water was tainted with lead after emergency managers changed the city's water source. It claims the kids drank the water and suffered from lead poisoning and brain damage. John?
And turning to that forecast, locally will remain sunny and quiet for the rest of the work week, and we have our sights on the tropics as we continue to track the latest on Category 5 Hurricane Milton that is poised to make landfall early Thursday morning. Our work week weather is going to be sunny and nice in southern Michigan and northwest Ohio, and heading into the weekend, Sunday could bring our next chance for some scattered and isolated showers, but overall rainfall looks to be very sparse throughout that 10-day. High pressure keeping sunshine in the mix. A few isolated fair weather clouds, but not expecting any rainfall through the duration of the work week. It's all eyes on the tropics. That well-defined hurricane eye, that is indicative of a powerful storm that has continued to intensify through the early evening hours. The latest data on Milton still showing 180-mile-per-hour wind speeds with a central pressure of 905, and that represents a deepening or a strengthening trend and rapid intensification due to the warm waters of the Gulf. There's the eye of that storm. It does look like it's undergoing what's called an eye wall replacement cycle. You'll notice it was a very clearly defined circle and has started to shrink a little bit. Sometimes that means the storm is essentially regrouping and transferring its energy. The latest data does maintain that Cat 5 status for another 24 hours or so, gradually weakening to a Category 3, but the impacts to West Florida are still going to be very substantial. Heading into early Thursday, that landfall likely as a Category 3 near the city of Tampa. Here's the latest on the impacts of this storm. Late Wednesday to early Thursday, the biggest impacts will be felt. Storm surges 10 to 15 feet, and heeding those evacuation orders absolutely imperative as we want to keep folks ahead of the storm. If you have friends or family down there, make sure that they are evacuating and taking all those emergency warnings and alerts very seriously. The hour-by-hour forecast does show you that eye moving to the northeast and eventually making landfall in West Florida as we head towards the early part of Thursday. Locally, sunny skies, temperatures nearing the 70-degree mark. Going to be a very comfortable feeling day. In the morning, we're going to be in the 40s. Into the afternoon, temperatures in the upper 60s to near 70 degrees. With the chance for just a few isolated fair weather clouds. Overall, sunshine is going to win out as we head into your day tomorrow. Farmers forecast for that harvest forecast, not a chance of rain. We're looking at totally dry weather conditions, and that'll provide prime weather for that fall harvest, even though the drought has continued to impact us locally. We'll have the latest drought monitor coming up Thursday on the severe drought that has affected northwest Ohio and even parts of southeastern Michigan.